too big a word. That's like mayonnaise. I'm assuming that's the biggest word I know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome on into Unabated College Football Player Props. Chris, it's week 5 here. I'm Thomas Viola. He's Chris Kay. We still need a catchy name. I got to talk with Derek Carty, who is on our next show here, the Blitz NFL Player Props. We're going to have week 4 player props coming up at noon right here on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But I got to talk with him and see if we would be approaching on copyright infringement if we were to name this the band, because I think that's what makes the most sense for college football.
It's week 5. We're almost too deep. We got to do it sooner rather than later, or else we just call it a day and just keep running it with the most generic, basic, SEO friendly title. So exactly. We got to do this quick.
Yeah, but hey, we are here. We are going to be talking some unabated player props today. We're going to be breaking down week 5 here. Like you said, we're really into the thick of the season at this point when it comes to these props here, Chris.
Yeah, this is great. This is fun. We're entering October is filled with like crazy awesome SEC matchups. We get a big one this weekend. You'll have props for that for anybody who subscribed to Unabated. Look at the Georgia Bama game, which is awesome. This is primo. This is where it gets fun. This is where the data keeps continuing to roll in. There's always going to be some sketchy random situations that we'll avoid, but I think it's like 22 or 23 teams that we feel really good about that are going to be coming out this evening. And hopefully everybody enjoys it, has a good time with it. Try to hit all the time slots. I was like, man, I got to get some like 10:30 slots in there, some teams in there just so people can have some late night action. So we'll have some like Oregon. I want to say Washington State will be included as well. So you get some late night Big Ten action with Oregon.
Yeah.
So you get some fun props.
We're going to have a lot of fun, man. Oregon Big Ten action. It feels so disgusting. But did you see that the Pac-12 is trying to like bring in Pac-12 is like, oh yeah, well, we don't have Oregon anymore, but hey, we might have Sacramento State. And honestly, same draw, right?
Dude, it's weird because now like the Mountain West wants like Northern Illinois and Toledo. Like if it's bleeding into the MAC, like this is never ending. It's just going to continue. The MAC,
if we do not have Tuesday night action, I'm just saying that is the impetus. Stuckey and I were tweeting about it today. That is the impetus for civil war in America.
We've gone too far.
If we lose the action, it's over as a country. The union will dissolve.
We just have gone too far. The sanctity of college football has been ruined that much to interfere with action.
Exactly.
Those guys are untouchable.
Exactly. All right. Let's take a look in the chat here because, again, everybody throw your questions in. We will talk about any props that you want to talk about as well. We do have plenty to talk about ourselves. We have our own pre-written agenda, but hey, got to shout out everybody. Brett Pagney saying Chris Kay is a legend, and thanks for hosting, Thomas. It's cool. I'll get the legend status eventually, Brett. I understand. Sports Video saying good morning. And GP36, how much of the bankroll on Ryan Williams overs? 50% or 75%? Or are we just taking out a home loan here? And are we putting the house on this one here, Chris?
Man, talk about a volatility play there. You know, Ryan Williams has been insanely impressive. The number seems pretty fair. It's just a matter of like, does he break the big play? Does he take a 7-yard slant for 70 yards? Does he take a bubble screen to the house? Like that's what you're looking for. I mean, he's got insane talent. He's only 17, Tom, which makes you really wonder what are we doing in our lives, early to mid 30s. So
it is getting very, very depressing. I'm not there yet. Still 29. I'm not there yet.
Oh shoot! I gave you an extra year. My bad. That's on me.
I'm still young for one more year, Chris.
So yeah, that's a fun one. That'll be a good game. And same with like Jeremy Bernard. His number is similar to Ryan Williams. You're hoping for a big play. Milroe, old school Nick Saban, they love to pass in these big games. Not as much in recent weeks. I think we're going to see more run than pass, but you never know. Those guys have the big play in them.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bunch of plays that we want to get to, and you know that we're excited. You know it's going to be an exciting and a good week. The dogs are already barking. That's how you know, Chris.
Dude. We are in Auburn, and it means we've doubled our dog count. There's 2 Goldens here, and we have 2 dogs ourselves. I was hoping you didn't hear that, but it's unavoidable. These dogs, they just keep barking. So I think maybe they approved.
Yeah, everybody understands. You're on site for the Auburn game this week.
Boots are on the ground. I will actually be at the game, so nice. We're going to be talking about Oklahoma a little bit later. They've been decimated. We'll talk about them a little bit. But yeah, the boots are on the ground. This is a fun. I was hoping to see like a high flying Oklahoma offense, right? Like all these talented receivers, quarterback, and like everybody's hurt, quarterback's benched. I mean, who knows what we'll see tomorrow? We'll talk about them later, but not quite the offensive matchup or team I was hoping to watch live and in person.
Yeah, it is. It is very unfortunate. They're wasting the best Brett Venables defense that they've had in this program with a terrible offense here. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some games that we do want to get to here. Where do you want to lead off, Chris? I'm going to share my screen and we'll get going.
Let's start with my Hokies. We play Miami. Oh, wish it was Miami, Ohio. We might have a shot. Miami, Florida, though, is on the docket tonight. Let's start with the passing attack. Yeah, I think this is perfect. So, Kyron Drones number is we have him at 188. So we like the over here. What's really interesting is if you want to click on the line movement for drones, this one started, I want to say at one point it was in the mid 140s.
Yeah, it was.
It got even down to 131. So this one's moved up. I've seen it in some places, like you can get a 159.5. Like there's a lot of different random numbers out there. And this is, I think, a testament to the prop tool here. With all these differences in numbers, why spend time trying to do the math? Just look at the prop tool, figure out which one's the best one that you have and run with it. But we liked the over last week. We had a Felton drop. Felton's one of his receivers. He had just essentially a drop or a bad, just out of the reach of him last week with a big target. Misses the over by 20, 25 yards. Would have easily cleared it. And that's just kind of the story of the Virginia Tech offense, has been either poor play calling or poor play by Drones just missing a deep ball, or Felton dropping a deep ball. So hopefully we see some creativity tonight. Brent Pry, the head coach, has come out and said, hey, like, let it fly. Like, you do you. If you make a mistake, who cares? Like, this whole hesitant, not trusting yourself is not going to work. Nice thing is this number is only, in some areas, right, 154.5. That's not a huge number, right? So I like the over. I think the number makes sense. I said to some people in the CFB Alpha chat on Sunday, I was going to nuke their baselines, like just make them the worst passing team ever because I'm tired of losing overs. But it's completely realistic. What we have is like super realist, conservative. There's zero bias in there. Preseason, I would have put his yards per attempt at like 8.5, and we have him at like 6.7. So it's a very realistic number with the over here.
Mm-hmm. Brett Pagney wants to know, Chris, thoughts on Tootin. Is he one of the players in this game? I'll be honest, my college football roster knowledge is not as nearly as deep as yours.
It's Bayshall Tootin, the running back.
Should we go to the running game next?
We could look at the run game real quick. This is going to be a slight edge one way or the other. I don't remember if it's an over and under. Yeah, it'll be actually an under here. This one's tough because game script definitely doesn't point towards Tootin getting heavy usage. Mm-hmm. It's a Miami, great defense, or at least great defense so far. And there seems to be a script that points towards a lot of passing, or maybe runs with drones. So the numbers like the under here. It makes a lot of sense. If you want to put something on Tootin, it certainly would be on the under on the rush yards, because I don't think this ground game is going to be super successful against a Miami defense.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you see it in the markets for this game. Like if we go over to the spread market real quick, just to really talk about it and see what we've got going on. It's a 17.5 point favorite here. That is going to necessitate some passing from the underdog for sure.
I would say like there's a possibility that Tootin in the pass game could be super involved. They've in the past liked to get him involved in some of the short passing game type stuff. He is a third down back for them. So I could see him being successful through the air. But 70 in general, just like 70 yards is a pretty solid number. That's not anything to scoff at. You'll see a lot of numbers more in the 40s, 50s, like Tootin at around 65 to 72, just depending on what you're looking at. Like that's a fairly reasonable number for a solid running back. So going under makes sense, all things considered. And if you want to look at the passing game, we'll see if maybe Tootin's got a passing prop up there we could digest, or a receiving. Yeah.
Not too much here as far as what we've got to look at in the passing market here. Hang on, let me hit that refresh real quick and see if that livens things up here. because that should do it.
Yeah, there's a Jalen Lane receiver for them. It looks interesting. His number has moved from like the high 30s to the low 40s since it's opened.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that number makes sense. It looks like we're maybe pulling in receptions is what we're doing. Maybe I gave you that sheet. Maybe you had it flip-flopped.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Let me re-upload those real quick because you are completely right. Because I was looking at those numbers and I'm like, all right, something's not adding up.
Yeah, 87% edge for the over on Arroyo would be a little bit crazy. I don't think we're going to be doing that one. So to give you an idea, someone in the CFB Alpha Discord chat had asked, hey, like, what do I need to know before pounding drones over? Like anything going crazy, because that number seems to drop a little bit. No, if anything, Allie Jennings, at least the second or third best receiver on the team, looks to be healthy for this one, which is a really positive thing for the passing attack. Felton is still going to be playing, even though he's had some unfortunate attempts, unfortunate targets. And then Lane is their surefire-handed slot type position that we like. We did at one point like the over when it was like 37.5. It's kind of a little bit, obviously nuked a little bit with it being in the low 40s. So
yeah, it's dipped down a little bit here. Bill M saying foggy screen. Bill, let us know if we're all good there, if that's all working. And Matt G says, can you guys hit the edit button so we can see the receptions for tonight's game? So like 5 seconds waiting on a local to release them. Yeah, but how about instead I go to the receptions market here?
FanDuel's been aggressive with it. Receptions are my favorite. I think they're I won't say easiest.
Yeah.
They're the least resistant to like missing the play projection by 5 plays or run pass split by 5% type of thing. So something like that is really helpful to look at.
Yeah. So Matt G, we've got the receptions market up here, and I hit that button for you. Let me know if you guys need me to zoom in a little bit more, because if you do, we can zoom in. It's not a big deal. But we are seeing a little bit for Xavier Restrepo here, under 6.5 catches.
I think I would like his yardage under, which we also like more than I just said, hey, like receptions I love to do, but he is a volume guy, but he's not a big play guy. He's not, I mean, he has the ability to go big play, but he's not going to get like the routes that are set for 30, 40, 50 yards. So I like the receiving yard under more for Restrepo, but think both are fine for sure.
All right. Where do you want to move on to next here? So we've got Miami versus Virginia Tech. Do we want to go to another game now?
No, I think there's a Miami guy I want to talk to here. Elijah Arroyo. He's right here, about 6 down, tight end. Miami hasn't, used to be like a tight end U, right? All those sick, awesome tight ends that come out of it. Not so much anymore. Elijah Arroyo is probably looking at 3 targets today. And so, I think he has you might be able to find a 2.5 reception yard or 2.5 reception prop that the under looks really good. But also this Arroyo under 27.5 yards looks really good. I think that's a really fair number to go under on, and the edge screen obviously agrees with that. So I think that's a really promising under. Tight ends, man. Tight ends. They're nothing in college football, but in prop betting, they are everything. It's a big one for you, as you know, right? We've talked about it every single week.
Yeah, I mean, we want to look at these, and we want to be able to look for the spots where one of the best edges that you can find, especially in college football, is when you're looking at these guys and you're looking to bet unders, because, this is something that we have preached on the Blitz with Derek so many times. It's a lot easier to bet on things not to happen than it is to bet on things to happen. And so when we can get some of these guys who are either just they're starters, but, maybe it's a tight end who's more so in the run blocking game, or it's that 4th, 5th, 6th guy down the list on the receiving depth chart, where you can, maybe they're going to play a couple snaps, but the odds are they're not going to be getting too many targets to begin with. You can really make some money betting on the unders for these guys.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you get a little bit worried, right? Like when you see Ted McMillan go for 300 yards in week 1, it's like, I don't want to bet an under on that guy at like 88 yards. But more often than not, right? Like, this is college football. Teams are going to double players. So you can't be worried about that 300-yard game, because the next week he went 2 for 12 against an FCS team. So unders, like you said, are just, it's a lot easier to project something to not happen than to happen. And I would never wish injury on anybody. If you bet an under and someone gets hurt, you have that, it's just a little bit That's better. I don't know. I don't want to take advantage of that, but like,
yeah, but it's true.
You have an over and he gets hurt and you're like, damn, he got hurt and I lost my prop, like,
yeah,
at least you get the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's not like that's one of the reasons that Sharps love under so much is because there is that little extra baked in value on the fact that people do get hurt. Like I had Austin Eckler's under carries mark on Monday night against the Bengals, and I had no hope. He had 3 carries through the first half. I had no hope of hitting this under 5, and then he gets hurt. He's out of the game, and I win my bet. Am I cheering for it? Absolutely not. But
you got bailed out a little bit, and you'll take
it. It is something that is inherently built into the risk here.
Yeah, for sure. So, definitely unders. And I'll say just we have the data. Unders have performed better than overs. I'm not going to get into the specifics of percentages. Unders have worked better than overs. Not a surprise in all of time that our team has done projections. We've always been advocates for unders, and they've always done better. So keep that in mind. Don't build an underdog slip of 5 overs. You're not doing yourself a favor by doing that.
Back when DraftKings Pick 6 got started, you could build a Pick 6 slip of 5 unders or 6 unders. You were doing pretty well right at the beginning there. Marwell saying, I've been good at betting unders and having the player get hurt after they clear the over. That's the worst beat right there.
That's just unfortunate is what that is. So let's move. I want to stay with Miami. There's 2 really good Friday night games. Rutgers, Washington, I think is going to be a different style of game, but fun. And then obviously Tech and Miami is fun, but they have Damian. If you want to go to the running backs at rushing yards, Damian Martinez transfers over from Oregon State. And I want to say we like his over. Yeah. So 59.5 is somewhat criminal for a guy of his previous production. The worry here would be that like the usage might be a little bit volatile because of the fact that they've played in so many blowouts. We believe we have it correct. We are releasing Friday night games to subscribers. First time we've done that this year. We had the feedback of like, hey, why can't we bet these? And the original intention, Tom, before the season, we said, like, we don't want to give away subscriber picks, right? That's kind of the idea. We do it every now and then, but not widespread. So we are doing it for these 2 games. I like the over 58.5. I think he sees 13 to 14 carries, and Virginia Tech's had a hard time tackling. So he's in a really good spot to hit that over.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, the game script is going to be a huge deal here. They're 17.5 point favorite. They're going to be running the ball in the second half. That is most likely what is going to be happening in this game here. He's going to get the volume and the carries to get here.
No, let's stay here and then go to the Washington Rutgers game. So Monungai here and Jonah Coleman. I think we like one more than the other. Yeah. So Jonah Coleman, man, he gained like something like 20, 30 pounds in the offseason. And typically that's not a good thing for a running back of like, I think he was like 205. He didn't need to gain 20 pounds. But he's been impressive. And this number of 65.5 is completely fair. I mean, we just talked about doing unders, but 65.5 on a guy that's going to get 14, 15 carries. Like that's a pretty promising number. Rutgers gave up some good yardage on the ground to Virginia Tech last week. I think that's a fair over there as much as we like to bet unders. And then on the other side, Monungai, 100 is a big number. I'm a huge Monungai fan. I touted him all off season, but 100 is a big number. This game could slow down a little bit. And they have, in a short week, they played Saturday, right? So this is Friday, a short week. We could see more of their second running back, Samuel Brown, who had a really nice day against Virginia Tech last week. And they give him a good amount of carries already. So we could see a little bit less usage than normal from Monungai. So 2% edge. If you want some juice on the Rutgers offense, I don't mind the under on Monungai at all at 2%.
Jovel in the chat saying, is Bashaw Tootin going back to Miami for a real quick second here? Is Bashaw Tootin projected for 20 carries?
He's a big usage guy. Yeah. And let's take a look. I don't know the specifics on what his
Yeah, no one has rushing attempts markets up for these games, but yeah, just looking at the specifics,
that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, he's we don't. I say we Virginia Tech fan. We don't really have a backup. Malachi Thomas is fine. He's always been injured, and then if you go past that, it's like PJ Prelu, the son of the former NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
Your biggest risk would be like, does Kyron Drones run it 20 times? Possible. But there's a real strong possibility they run it 35 times. And Tootin's a 50 to 60% usage type back in college football.
Yeah. So there you go. Like, he's going to get the volume, but is it going to really be there for him? All right. Back to this Washington Rutgers game here. We go with running backs, or do we want to head on?
let's go to the passing yards. I want to see real quick. Things change day to day. I want to see where Will Rogers is at. I don't think there's anything up for Rogers.
Yeah. Matthew G, by the way, says Tootin rush attempts at 14.5 on some PPH sites.
I would. That's a strong play to go over. We're just touting overs after talking about unders.
Yep.
What I was going to say is, hey, if Will Rogers does have a line up some of these books, doesn't look like it. The reason why I was going to bring him up was because there is a strong feeling that the backup, Damon Williams, true freshman quarterback, there's a real shot that he becomes that he gets more and more attempts than he continues to see, right? So that will continue to uptick. Will Rogers is in his final year. Damon Williams, true freshman. They kind of want to keep seeing what he's got. They like him, and it makes more sense. So keep an eye on that as the season goes. And then Kaliak Manis, the Greek rifle, nothing there for us. Let's look at the receiving yards, because I do know there's some that we like there.
All right, sliding down to receiving yards here. Let's fire up these projections, and boom.
So, yeah, Jeremiah Hunter came into the season as kind of like a receiver 1, maybe 2, and he's turned into a receiver 3. So we've recently liked his unders, and the unders have hit on him. That's a good number at 38.5. So I do like that one as well. The more Damon Williams plays, the more they're going to be running. He is a very athletic, raw quarterback. So if you like the under on Hunter, Damon Williams snaps is awesome. And then Denzel Boston, we have liked overs on him, and they've been successful. He is more that receiver 1 or 2 now. And but that number is just getting higher, right? 56 yards essentially. And Will Rogers' number is like 218. It's about 25% of the production there, which is in line with it being kind of like right on the border. We like the under. This game could get sloppy. It could get very run heavy. And so Boston under there as well makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Everybody in the chat is loving these Tootin. Everyone is loving these Tootin attempts over 14.5 lines. They're finding on some PPHs. CJ for days says Rogers 219 on Fliff right now. What do you think?
If you want juice, I'd say that's totally fair. Go for the under. If you have others to bet and other ways to get your juice tonight, I'd say put it in the back pocket. See if maybe. Watch the game, right? Maybe you see Tuesday or Wednesday, Will Rogers' number comes out at 245. Then it's like, bang, alarm bells are ringing. Let's bet the under on the 245 next week and take advantage of a split situation. That number is very competitive. So if you really had to, under looks good, but I think there's other props tonight that make more sense.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone wants to drop one of those PPH books that's available on, let me know, because I'm not seeing it on any of mine.
Slide into Tom's DMs immediately.
Yeah, slide into the DMs there. I might be interested in an account too. GP36 in also 33.5 passing attempts and 20.5 completions for Rogers.
What was the attempt number?
33.5.
So that's the one. I wasn't sure if there was. I saw this on Underdog for like a minute on Wednesday, maybe. We have Washington at 33.5 attempts, like period. So we also have Damon Williams at like 5 or like maybe 5 or 6, 8% of attempts. I would be more entranced if you said, hey, I can get under on 33.5 attempts. Like, yes, I would do that. I don't think he's hit that number period this year. And he is going to split some work with Damon Williams. So I like the 33.5. That's it. If we had that in the system, that would 100% be like a 10, 15% edge.
Yeah. Colin Sherwin, DM and me, our own Colin Sherwin, who works on these projections, saying, got it. All right. Where do you want to go next on the board here? Do you want to hit the passing? We've already hit passing. We've already hit receiving. We've already hit rushing. Are we done with the Friday games, or do you have another guy you want to highlight?
I think we're done, but Kenny Fletcher, tight end for Rutgers, they've used for tight ends in the past. Kaliak Manis is a guy that would hit a tight end. Like, he's not afraid to use a tight end, older guy. That's a low number. If it's completely right, I think 12% edge makes a lot of sense. They've used him. I think they threw like 7-8 targets to him last week against Virginia Tech. They've gotten pretty creative with how they have used their passing game. So, and they don't use a lot of guys. It's more like Dummy or Miller, Ian Strong, and Fletcher as the tight end. And that's almost it. So if you do agree with that, I think that number is a good over. Otherwise, let's look at Oklahoma. We have a little bit of a stale number situation on our end. We'll have to talk through it rather than you guys just basing it on the prop screen, because SEC injury reports came out. They have said there might not even be Oklahoma numbers. Take a look at receiving yards.
Okay, we have some receiving yard numbers here. And by the way, shout out to the 73 people currently watching on YouTube. If you're following us on Twitter, feel free to hit that link. Come over to the YouTube channel as well. Ask us your questions, all that good stuff. But if you're not already a subscriber to Unabated here, specifically to the channel, we are at 1,060 right now. Let's try and get that up to 1,100. That's our goal for the day between here and the Blitz with Derek Carty coming up after this at noon Pacific time. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, don't miss a minute of any of the shows that we do here. Hit that button. You'll get notified. Never so often, Captain Jack forgets to make the premium live streams unlisted. So you could also be getting a little bit of an extra free roll there. So just a heads up, maybe worth hitting that button. Never miss a minute when we go live. But right now, Chris, Oklahoma is where we're going.
Yeah, so do not hit this Deion Burks number. I'm surprised there's even a prop up. He is ruled out, so you can bet it, and it'll just be a canceled bet, because the SEC injury reports are required now. They have named their top 5 receivers out for this game, which is astonishing. It's
like
incredible.
all 5?
All 5. There could theoretically one of them might be considered a top 5, but like he's 4th best type thing. So Deion Burks is out. Do not bet that. My head is in the way, but we got a Bauer Sharp. So I was impressed by Bauer Sharp, tight end for Oklahoma against, I think it was Temple week 1. He's moves good. He's one of the few guys there. So I would think that that's a good option to go over on a small number. Brennan Thompson's the lone receiver that's available. This, like I said, stale numbers. So if we were to redo projections, I would think that that is an over that is worth taking. Like I said, stale numbers. Apologies for not getting that updated and put it in here. But Brennan Thompson's the lone receiver left. So I think that's a good one to go over on. But I feel more confident in Bauer Sharp at that 24.5.
Going back to the last game here, and I'll try and get to these questions a little earlier so that we're not on a game and then circling back. But Scott Miller asks, favorite Will Rogers under based on that theory, or spread it around amongst all of them? So he's looking for which one would you play versus would you spread something around on everything. He has some good availability on him. And Brett Pagney, of course, saying can't wait until all Power 4 conferences, RIP the Tupac, come out with regular injury reports.
So I think you could spread out between attempts and completions, and that would be totally fine. What is it, 20.5 was the number? So 21 for 32 passing is about 65%, right? That feels fine. So I think both of those attempts and completions under, certainly reasonable. If I had to lean one, I would go attempts.
Awesome. All right. Heading back to this Oklahoma game here. We've got some stale numbers up on the board that we need to repair, but do we like anything in the rushing game?
Let's look at the rushing yards. They use what a group of guys that have just been underwhelming. Javonte Barnes is the lone guy, and we like the under. Reason being, they've looked awful, straight awful. I mean, the offensive line has been bad. We all knew that coming in, and then they've used multiple backs. Gavin Sawchuk, Javonte Barnes here. The only glimmer of hope for Barnes fans is that Taylor Tatum, one of their freshman running backs, is out for this one. But I still don't think it's enough. Last week, we liked the Jaquindon Jackson under, and that was maybe high 80s, and that hit under against Auburn's defense. That's why I bring it up. I like the Auburn defense enough to stop them, and we have Michael Hawkins, their quarterback, as a big-time runner. You're down 5 receivers. Shockingly, you want to run the football.
Yeah.
Hawkins is and he's also a true freshman in his first start, going to be playing at Auburn, 95,000 people. So the under on Barnes is really strong there. He's a part of a committee. He's going to be a part of three guys, quarterback included, that are going to be very run friendly.
Yeah, it's all about the usage rates, and if he's not getting the usage, he's not getting the yardage.
Yeah, and speaking of SEC, we could go to Kentucky.
Let's do it.
Kentucky, and let's go passing. I think They have a little bit of injury stuff. Chip Trainum has been named out. He's their running back that has yet to play. But specifically wanted to speak on Brock Vandegrift. He had that 130 number against Georgia. I don't remember if he hit under or over on that. So the hard part of Kentucky is you would think that when teams are losing, especially by multiple touchdowns, the game script would say, hey, throw the football. That's not been the case for Kentucky. Small sample. We have made them a little bit more pass friendly than they've shown, and we still like the under. So even though this is essentially 7.5% edge on his passing under, that's a good 153. Under 153 feels very good to me. That's a strong number to bet an under on.
All right, yeah, and hey, we do love betting some unders around here, so that is always a good way to go. Now, is it going to correlate into the receiver market? Do you want to head there?
Yeah, let's look at receiving yards because they do have some talented receivers, but this has really hampered them. We see edges across the board. We have Jordan Dingle, the tight end. He's going to see
great name.
Exactly.
That's a tight end name.
That is a tight end name. 2 to 3 targets. It's just a matter of does he turn it into 12 yards, 15 yards, right? So I think that's a fine under. Macklin's their third receiver. I probably would avoid that. The common rule that we've said all season is, hey, if it's under 5%, we are releasing so many different edges. Just stay away from it unless you know something, the Vegas doesn't. Instead, Dane Key, Berrien Brown. Those are two guys that I think have some strong unders. Berrien Brown coming into the year was the guy. He might be a second-round draft pick, which is crazy because his prop number is 25.5. You ever seen that before? Have a second-round draft pick? You haven't, right? He's electric in the return game. He's great and runs, but they have just done nothing with him. Vandegrift has done him an injustice and not been able to connect with him through the years. So I like the under there. Dane Key has kind of been a favorite of Vandegrift. 45.5, though, was a pretty strong number. Over 25% of production would be tied to that. And he's not really going to see 25% of targets. So I think the unders on Key and Brown make a lot of sense.
Now, I was curious. It naturally caught my eye, and I had to go and check real quick to see if I was going to feel real old. Jamori Macklin, not the son of Jeremy Macklin, famous Eagles wide receiver.
Thankfully for all of us. Yeah, that would have been real bad.
He is the cousin. The pedigree is still there. Is the cousin of Jeremy Macklin.
He had an awesome year. He's a North Texas transfer. That kind of goes to G5 to P4 transfers at receiver is really, really hard to do. You see a lot of them not be successful. And really good player last year at North Texas, just hasn't been able to turn it up. And that might be Vandegrift, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Or the passing attack and how they play games. So play their offense. So maybe not anything against him. It just hasn't worked out.
Yep. Well, we will see. Now, do we want to head to the rushing market on Kentucky?
No, it's fairly sloppy. I just wouldn't think much of it. I would rather attack the fact that, we have them probably a little bit more pass happy than usual. So we already like the unders on them, which means if we were to make them even more run heavy, we would like this stuff more. Let's look at Iowa State. Iowa State, their running back situation is even worse. Very, very sketchy because of Abu Sama is their running back, and then they have another guy, Carson Hansen, and then Jalen Jackson, a MAC transfer. We have him at 66.6 yards. Check his rushing attempts. What do we have his rushing attempts at? I think we want to say 14 or 15, but I'm curious what we have for his. Well, I'm saying 10.6. This is a guy that could see 5 carries. This is a guy that could see 17 carries. Their usage on running backs has been extremely up and down. He had 17 carries against Iowa, and then last week in a competitive game, he had 5 carries. So the under on the rushing yards is probably where I'd go because he hasn't been efficient with his touches. He hasn't been productive. I'm surprised you can bet rushing attempts on ESPN Bet.
I'm stunned.
That is shocking. So if you want to go back to rushing yards, that under looks good to me. 66, the number 67.5. ESPN Bet wants to take their chances on it. There's a strong chance this is a committee, and we have him close, really pretty RB1, not the typical Bayshal Tootin 55%. It's more like maybe 37, 38% of usage. And that feels fine. I don't have any issue with this under at 7.5%.
How often do you think Stacey Sneed had to hear Stacey's mom while he was growing up?
I mean, he is the perfect. Is he the perfect age? He might be a little bit too young for that era, but it's too close for comfort. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely past the prime era because he would have had to have been in school when I was in school.
Yeah.
But still, it's got to be like,
Too
there's
close.
no way that the youth of today did not know Stacey's mom. There's no way.
Yeah, I would prefer not to have to even get anywhere close to that as a Stacey. So, yeah, good question. Hopefully not too much. Not as. Yeah. What would be worse, Stacey Sneed or Jordan Dingle?
Oh man, I mean, let me tell you. Right after we get done with this show and I get done with Derek at noon, I am absolutely ordering one of my friends a Jordan Dingle jersey just so that he can, because he is a Dingle and he needs that jersey.
He's deserving of it.
Yes.
Let's look at receiving yards. Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, the top two targets here. Man, I was hoping there would be a Ben Brahmer line, but they must have been taken down or changed. Noel and Higgins, really quality receivers. They've hit on some big plays this year, but Noel's previously not a big play guy. He is your 7-yard slant over the middle type receiver slot guy. Higgins is more your taller, deep threat. I like the under on both these a little. I wouldn't go crazy on compared to some of these other ones we've talked about, but like if you wanted to look at this 4 o'clock time slot and you wanted something, these numbers are pretty competitive. They're pretty fair. And the under there makes sense. So, they're going to pass a little bit. We saw this with, if you bet Brendan Sorsby unders like myself last weekend, we got super lucky, man. They played Houston and Houston is awful, like bad. Mm-hmm. They turn the ball over too much. Their defense isn't great. A lot of short fields. They took out Sorsby by the end of third quarter. And so he was like 14 for 18 for like 200 yards and the under 218 hit because he got pulled. I could see that happening with some of these Iowa State guys. Houston's just really not in a good place right now. So yeah, I think that plays into it a little bit as well.
By the way, some NFL news. Devontae Adams will not play week 4. So wow. Max Crosby also has not been practicing.
Trey McBride's out too. They announced that maybe like an hour before the show. You got any Trey McBride in your ESPN leagues or Yahoo leagues or what have you?
Trey McBride? I do not have him. I did not draft him.
I have one. I have one share of him, unfortunately.
I have Kyle Pitts.
Oh, well, maybe you should have taken Trey McBride.
Gets worse. I also have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
That's not good.
No.
What a crazy NFL year. Yeah. But back to college football, I think we got one or two more teams left. SMU, Southern Methodist.
Hang on. Real quick before we go to that game here, because Schuyler, I'm not even trying. Schuyler asks, I have Brahmer 16.5 receiving yards. Are we hammering?
I really like the over. He is in my opinion, he's a really good college tight end. This is a guy that has tight end, NFL tight end potential. Mm-hmm. We could be complaining about drafting him as like a tight end 7 in fantasy in 5 years. And him just underproducing, but like he is going to make it to the NFL as a tight end. He is real NFL tight end sized. And if 16.5 yards to me is, I think I saw it around like 23.5 or something like that. Like, so 16.5 is a very strong over play. We just keep giving overs, but I think some of these books want us to go over. So they just put the number so low that they get you to do it. But that to me is just way too low.
Well, hey, if they're gonna give it to us, they're gonna give it to us. All right. Where do you want to go next?
Let's see what SMU has to offer for us, if anything. Okay. Jake Bailey. So he's by target numbers, their number one receiver, something like 6 targets a game. 29.5 yards is really not a big number for a team that can pass it pretty decently. They've had some quarterback change. They went with this Kevin Jennings guy over Preston Stone. My only concern would be, and this is why we didn't really release SMU and running back stuff too with them, but does Kevin Jennings like a different receiver more than Preston Stone? But we have 2 weeks of data for each. Jake Bailey is going to start. He's going to run routes as much as anybody else. And so that 29.5 number is pretty fine. FSU, not somebody I'm really all that concerned about. So I like the over on Bailey there.
Colin Sherwin also saying, also breaking some injury news for us. Thomas Castellanos for Boston College not going to play. Backup was bad at FIU first game for the Eagles here.
Grayson James finally gets his shot. Who did they play against this weekend?
Yes, the wrong guy. Yeah.
Delete SMU and type in BC and let's see what we get.
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky. Yeah, that's, you know what, doesn't surprise me. This is what these P4 teams do is they wait for this, like a G5 team that's lower level, and then they do it. They took the lines off because of obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Castellanos, really good quarterback, but he's run first. And I'd be weary. Maybe some of these receivers numbers get too high. Lewis Bond, if he's around 50, if Jaden Skeet's around 30, those are ones that I would go under on. Grayson James, I want to say threw for like 7 yards in a game last year. Like, it's not good. That's not a good situation. I think they'll lean on the running backs more there.
Scott Miller also saying, it's my fault here, but he's rewinding the stream. You guys are doing great. Thank you. How about Oklahoma using Barnes more in the pass game because wide receiver room stats, or is he not that guy, pal?
He's not really a receiving guy. Watch him get like 5 catches tomorrow, but I don't think their running backs are well suited for passing game usage. I think if anybody, it would probably be Sawchuk that might see an increase in the pass work, but Hawkins, man, sometimes you just never know with these freshman quarterbacks. They either lock into one guy or they panic and scramble or they panic and check down. Panic and run, right? Like Jaden Daniels was never really known to check down to running backs because he would just run it himself when he got under pressure. And we might see Hawkins do that tomorrow. I think I'd prefer just betting unders on the running backs, rushing yards, and just think that that offense is not going to be very good tomorrow. Lower scoring game.
All right, back to our scheduled program.
SMU. Let's look at rushing yards. Middle of the week, we wanted to look at like is LJ Johnson going to be available? He was concussed last week. You just never know with concussions.
That's tough.
And I don't know if they're going to actually have to talk about that injury. I don't think ACC is one of those teams that does that injury report.
They do not.
So, you would know, Syracuse guy. Under, man. Brashard Smith's looked the best of all the running backs. LJ Johnson was one of those guys that would like start, play a few snaps, and then really Brashard would take the lead. So small edge here, but I do think the over makes a lot of sense. FSU, like I said, has not been anything to be worried about. And so if LJ Johnson, especially if LJ Johnson's out, we're great. They also had Jalen Knighton, another running back for them, an older guy, small usage per game, but he's out for the season. So that running back room is getting a little bit thinner than normal, which is helpful. Books don't necessarily realize it. They put the number too low, and then you're able to take advantage.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to hit the passing game?
Let's see. I don't know if there's any passing yard props out there, but let's take a look real quick at Kevin Jennings. Oh, God.
We got a number.
Yeah, we like the over. Yeah.
Caesars has one.
Yeah, Caesars, man. They'll throw anything out there these days. It's just a matter of, the numbers are right, man. It's some of these ones, sometimes you're just like, wow, we're like 50, 60 yards over. Like, how does this come to be? I think it's just a matter of SMU being more successful than Vegas thinks, maybe. And I don't know. It's FSU. They're scrambling to get a second win or first win. No, they beat Cal last week, so second win. This is not something I would bet. Like, I've heard people say I bet half a unit for this percentage, 1 for this, 2 for this edge type of percentage. I would act like this is more like a 20% edge. 45% edge feels a bit extreme, but it does feel right. The numbers say what the numbers say, and so I just wouldn't hammer this like some of these other 35 to 40% edges we've seen in the past.
We will see if this prop comes through, or if Kevin Jennings will put us in jeopardy.
Look at you. Damn it, Tom. I think that's all the teams we got. I mean, we ran through about 8 of them there.
Yeah. We've had a quality show here so far, and I want to remind people we got more than 80 people watching us just on stream live right now, and a bunch more are going to catch us on replay here. No matter when you're watching, please hit that subscribe button for us. We would greatly appreciate you helping us grow the channel here, grow out more. And you don't want to miss a minute because we've got so many great shows for you. We got 3 shows a week right now. We're going to be adding some NBA content as the season starts rapidly approaching here for the association. But in the meantime, let's keep talking about some of these games because sports betting education here, he wants to go back to that Miami game. He loves Horton over 44.5 tonight for Miami. Looked like the wide receiver won last week. What do you think?
If you want to go to the receiving yards for them, I think we agree. He did see a big uptick in usage. I would say there's a slight concern because I think they beat Ball State by like 100, and that can sometimes skew the numbers. But he is certainly in play. They have 4 legitimate receivers. Restrepo is going to be the number one guy. Jacoby George has kind of faded a little bit. Samuel Brown hasn't really been as impressive as people thought he'd be. So Horton taking advantage of it in a really strong game last week. Numbers say they like the over here at 42.5. Colin did some grunt work in the background on this Miami game, this Miami Virginia Tech game, and came away with the fact that like Tech just doesn't tackle well. They play enough man-to-man where that's scary for big plays. So Horton, really talented receiver, younger guy. I could see 42.5 happening on like 2 receptions. That Tech defense has struggled, and the spread's big. Vegas thinks that Miami wins big, so they got to score points somehow, right? So I think that's a good one. Cam Ward, dude, is automatic for 300 yards a game. So
yeah,
he's got to throw to somebody. And 42.5 is a pretty low percentage of that number.
Colin Sherwin pointing out 52% of snaps are man-to-man here. And Bill M says there's that infamous Vegas reference. I still have never met Vegas. In my head, Bill M is our own Bill Monaghetti, our COO here. Just clowning you there, Chris. But yeah, you know.
So when I reference Vegas like that,
it's the shorthand that we have all known and used. Like, come on.
Yeah, and I will say too, with like our projections, we base it off of like the way the model is built. There's a level of like, okay, well, like this is a 17-point favorite. 17-point favorites run the ball more than teams that are going to be playing from behind the whole time. Or if they're going to score 40 points, right? Like people have to create yardage to then score those points. So when I say Vegas like that, sometimes I'm like, well, we base it off of what Vegas has given us. So if the thing is, right, like if every single total is way off this week, then our numbers are going to be subsequently way off because we, in a sense, base it off those totals and those spreads. So yeah, it's one of my more popular lines. We should probably get me a T-shirt that says like Vegas knows or something like that. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's one of those ones I use probably a little too much.
Hey, we're all good. We're having good fun on it. Sports betting education. I believe a closer game could lead to Miami's offense actually going harder, which is a very good point here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're beating teams by 40 points, you're seeing more rotation, and you might even see rotation earlier, right? Miami knows they're going to beat Ball State by 40 points. They don't necessarily, especially if they have a short week the next week and they play an ACC opponent, right? So they're going to play that game differently than they would here. You're going to see these starters throughout the entire game. You're going to see usage be as probably true as it's going to be all season, which makes, in my opinion, a situation that's really better to project than against a Ball State or against a lesser G5 opponent, something like that.
Yeah. Sports betting education says he likes the Miami overs because I'm hoping for this game to be more competitive when teams are projected to win by a lot. I worry they won't pass in the second half. Colin Sherwin, our own Colin Sherwin, who, by the way, is going to be filling in for you on the show next week.
Nice.
He points out, big thing, Miami is absolutely chasing stats for the Heisman for Ward. He was on the field up 28 against USF last week. And Jovel saying also on the Horton receiving angles.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the Cam Ward buzz was big in the offseason. I want to say they probably paid a pretty penny for him, so they're going to try to squeeze every dollar out of him, right? That Heisman would be huge for him. If you don't mind, go to the line. I think this one has jumped around a little bit. I'm sorry, for the Miami versus Virginia Tech line in terms of like the spread.
Oh, the game.
Yeah.
And Bill M also saying can't help but break some balls. Hey, we know, man. We know we're all having a good time here. You're all good in our book. The props originate from like FanDuel and offshore for the most part. The books in Las Vegas aren't really originating these player props. Trust me. I live in Las Vegas. I know it is awful out here. I gotta make my drive out to Arizona tonight to make my prop bets for the weekend.
That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, I think
spread
this
has
line's
bounced around
moved
a
a
little
pretty
bit.
decent bit. It was like, I want to say it was up
19,
to
20.
19. Yeah. So I want to say it started at 17 and a half, maybe 18 and a half. Yeah, I got to 17 there. So
Yeah.
money
There
was
was
on
some look
Miami
ahead
early.
13 and a halves.
Wow. Yeah. So, well, Virginia Tech has just been so disappointing. As a Tech fan, it's just been really rough to watch, especially the way they're losing. Fumbling a punt inside your own 20 in the final 10 minutes of the game. That type of stuff is just really frustrating. Beamer ball, man. That's the special teams is our jam, and that's how we lose. But then the money went back towards Virginia Tech a little bit, right? Got it back to 17 and a half. So
Yeah.
depending on who you talk to, I'm sure there's some people that think this number is way too big. And then ultimately, if you're a Miami guy, what you've seen out of Miami these days, it's like there's no way this is enough points for Tech. So it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sports Betting Education says he's in Texas, so he's just been doing props on Prize Picks, DraftKings, Pick Six, and all that. Tell you what, let's look at Prize Picks. Why not? Let's treat our friends treat our friends who are unfortunately not in.
No, yeah, you want to do the custom projections. Yeah, the concierge is not yet out.
No. All right, let me.
There's a Brahmer. There was a Brahmer line there.
Yeah. We're going to take all those out. We're going to look at these. And so let's see, we've got some decent options. Like if you wanted to build out a slip here, let's build out a slip. I might even have, Don't
grab the Burks. Don't grab the Burks. But yeah, you go Barnes, Bailey, and Drones, and you'd be in a good spot there.
Yeah. This might be something worth playing a little bit here. If you wanted to add one more guy onto it, make it a 6, what would we do?
I think I would do Barry and Brown. We've talked about the passing attack just not being used much. They try to grind it out, keep you close just by not letting you have the football, right? They played Georgia. Yeah. It's like 16-13 or 16-12 or 13-9, something like that. Like they want to kill the ball, like deflate the ball a little bit. And it's led to a lot of runs. I'm sorry,
Let's see if this catches. Let me move it over to let me move us to the other side here so that we can just boom. There we go. So we've got that to cash. All right. Well, Chris, we have had a really great show here so far. Sports Betting Education says, I love better, longer as well. And Chris, it has been much running out of time here. We have managed to get to quite a lot of games.
Yeah, my internet in good fashion is dying here on the plains of Auburn.
I don't think it is you because I am having some things start to pop up now too. So I think it's something to do with StreamYard, which I hope is first off not creating any issues for us and won't be creating issues for us on the next stream here because we've got Derek Carty coming up in just a couple minutes, noon Pacific time here. We are going to be rocking with him, talking some NFL props. So stick around, just head back to the channel homepage or check out. We've got all the links for the shows so that you cannot miss a minute. We'll be talking some week 4 NFL player props coming up in a bit. But first, thank you all so much for being here again. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Make sure you don't miss a minute of our shows. We really appreciate you being here with us. And as always, if you want to check out our props here on, our prop projections, all of these fantastic tools that we have for you, be sure to head over to unabated.com/demo. Get yourself a free trial today because if you sign up for a demo, it will most likely be me going one-on-one, walking you through all of the tools that we have, showing you how everything works, how everything works together to allow you to really take advantage of everything that unabated.com has to offer you. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you all so much for being in the chat, for helping us out, for talking, giving your thoughts, your opinions. We love hearing all of it. We appreciate y'all being here with us. And of course, we will be back here next week. Chris, you will be off, but Colin Sherwin is going to be filling in so we don't have to miss a minute of proppy action here. And as always, one more time, let's cash some tickets. Best of luck this weekend, everybody. Thank you again. We'll see you in just a couple minutes on the next show. Derek Carty going to be joining me here at noon Pacific time, right at the top of the hour in just 5 minutes. So for now, that's going to do it. And we'll see you next time. And one more time, best of luck. And let's cash some tickets.